Hello? Right, we're working now. So this is the final of today's innovation round. We've had about 15 companies competing today to show innovation in AI. There's been a lot of interest from large and small companies showing where we're going in terms of innovation. And what we were looking for as judges and as a panel, and the purpose of the competition was to identify practical AI features. I think, first of all, that we could just understand and that we could recognize the purpose, and it wasn't just a shiny object. And I think we've seen a lot of those today. I think one of the big takeaways that I have from the show going around is I've seen more in this particular show, which has enabled me to see things that I would actually use. If I was a frontline worker, if I was hiring frontline workers, I've seen really practical frontline tools that I think, yeah, that would be useful. And that's for everything from performance management all the way through to different recruiting and hiring tools. And what strikes me with that is that we've been aware for a lifetime that those were communities that were underserved in terms of technology because it was complex, because it was phone or remote based. What we've called in a lot of the studies we've done recently, standing up workers, that standing up workers were underserved by technology because they weren't connected to a computer. And now we're seeing solutions for every aspect of their work. And that's just one area. That's one area of innovation that I'm seeing jumping out loud and clear. I'm also seeing innovation for practical things like candidate experience, feedback, assessment, ranking, whether we put in a pre-apply or a post-apply layer. I'm beginning to see tools that fit the problems which we know exist. So I'm very excited to see the final of this competition. I'm hoping we have the competitors here now. So do we have Flip anywhere in the room? And we're ready for you. So Flip, our first finalist, winner of the last round, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Lovely stuff. I just need a clicker for my presentation, and then I need my presentation on the screen. Lovely. Thank you very much. Can I use this? Is this? Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you've had a lovely 2 days here. I've personally learnt a lot. I'm really excited to share something with you today. I really want to share with you something that we work on at Flip called Flip Intelligence. So I'm going to give you a bit of background about Flip. Flip is an employee experience platform, mostly used by frontline workers. We really want to empower the frontline employees across the globe by giving them easy access to communications, to processes, and other people in their teams. My name is also Melita Gandum. I'm a digital employee experience manager at Flip. So my job is to build the workflows and get this app in front of people so they can use it to the best of their possibilities. So let's kick off. This is a kind of slide that you've probably seen a lot going around these kind of places over the years. This is 45 years of digitalization. This is what it's looked like. You started off with your pen and paper processes. You've also gone into your faxes, for example. Then you moved into your kind of computer and your kind of more software going around. Then we were hit with COVID, for example, so we all had to reimagine the workplace and how we had to work as remote teams across the world. But we noticed that there was a large chunk of the workplace left behind. So what we were finding that 80% of the workforce is the front line, and they're still stuck in what we like to call a digital stone age. We see a lot of stuff being celebrated as desk workers. We're really excited about AI at the moment, especially stuff like Claude Code. So why are most of the workforce out there not getting the same kind of benefits and not using the same kind of tools to make their work life a whole lot better, easier, and more importantly, more efficient? Okay, so let's jump into what Flip does then in a bit more detail. We've got 4 pillars that we strive for. We want to exist, reach, engage, and transform, most importantly. So what is exist? That's more like digital identity. We want safe, secure, and frontline-friendly login and access to apps. This means single sign-on. It means not flapping around with too many logins, not having too many apps on your phone, using the kind of data you already have on your phone, your logins, your biometric system to have in order to log into your app very easily and seamlessly, so you can get to what you need to get to. Next up is reach. So that's communication. Within Flip, we like to use stuff like channels, chat, call, and even video call in order to access new processes, get information, and talk to our other co-workers. As people, we're used to using these tools. We use WhatsApp a lot, we use video call, so why can't we use this at work to make our life a whole lot easier? Next up is engage. We all know that we use a lot of systems in our day-to-day work. For the frontline worker, this needs to be accessible through their phone. So switching between all these different apps and logins can be a bit of a faff and really draw out your day. So what we want to do is really bring those integrations into this one app so they can access their payslips, they can access their time off, they can access all these different tools that they need to do their day-to-day work. Lastly, and I think the most important and probably the most exciting at this time, is transform. We want to bring operational workflows and agents into these apps so people on the front line can also use it how we've been using it for the last year or so. Just because we're kind of like catching up quick and we're really going for the AI agents race, doesn't mean people on the front line need to be left behind as well. It's just a case of slimming that gap between digital transformation for us and also frontline workers. So let's break down Flip Intelligence into how it would work for you. So Flip can be used on desktop as well. And it can also be used on phone. Our main parts of Flip Intelligence include a knowledge base. So this is your single source of truth. All companies, I would hope most companies, have their processes set in place and they've got them ready to go, and once they're finalized, they're finalized. So the knowledge base gives you the opportunity to host it in this one place, so then it can be accessed by all workers, either organically or by your AI agents or your workflows. Let's move into our most exciting part of Flip Intelligence, which is our Ask AI, which is our integrated AI assistant. This is where you can go straight to your AI agent and ask it any question and get the response you want. So the information from the AI agent will be pulled from places like your knowledge base, from your channels. So say, for example, if you had a channel post that shared about this amazing event we were at, if someone asked about what event happened last week, the AI agent will tell them about that. For another example, if I wanted to find out about leave or time off, I could go into my AI agent and ask, what is your holiday policy? How do I book time off? This will give me the opportunity to find the knowledge base article I need, or the channel post I need, or even better, take me to an automated process which would allow me to book time off. This seamlessly takes me to workflows, which would be our digital workflows. These are what we call highly agentic AI. And these are pre-made systems, pre-made workflows that allow you to share information that has been signed off and built by you as a human. So if you want a bit more control over what's been said and what's been communicated to your end user, these automated workflows allow you to do that as well. So these are what some of our customers have to say, and this is how the digital transformation journeys have gone for them. So we work with a lot of industries. We work with hospitality, with retail, with manufacturing, even local councils. And we work with them across the globe. So we can really see that there's a real pain point with how frontline workers are being treated across the globe and across industries. So we work with Bosch, for example. Bosch, we used to have people waiting at kiosks ready to answer questions, kind of wasting some of their time with like menial tasks. Now these kiosks can be shut down. Those employees can focus on more exciting and probably more strategic objectives. And instead, these things like pay slips, HR questions, and news can be delivered through the app. Porsche, which was one of the companies that we built the app with, had 80% of 42,000 plus employees not having access to email, PC, or digital tools. Now we're seeing a 90% plus daily usage across the workforce. McDonald's Germany, this one blew my mind because I can't imagine this, especially in 2026. But people were driving into their stores in order to access their paper shift rotas. Now they've been able to access these shift rotors through their app, we're finding that they're more likely to be on time, they're going to be more engaged, they know what's going on. McDonald's also put together a 90-day onboarding process, which was established before the employee joins, so they feel integrated, ready to hit the ground running once they start their first day. Ben & Jerry's is a company based in Australia, one of our furthest companies, but they had so many disconnected tools and the like, and now they found that they have called Flip to be the heart of their workday, which I think is a really great quote. They can take all those employees into this one app, and they don't need to be wasting time with all these superfluous ones. Last but not least is one of our most recent clients. It's KFC, and it's based in Austria and Slovakia. So this was also a really interesting barrier because we have the language barrier across the language and process barrier across the two countries. With language processing and AI within that system, we're able to engage those people, and we found that they gave the My KFC app, which was branded to their needs, 4 stars and higher when it was launched about a few months ago. So this is just all of our outcomes. We've got real outcomes, real frontline, and real scale, all delivered through a handy app, and it's all powered by AI. Thank you very much.
Judges' questions. Over to the judges. Mr. Fisher, Bill Fisher, Vonk.
Cool. So I like what you're doing at Flip. So I think the unifying the data, the knowledge bases, the productivity tools in a single mobile app makes a lot of sense. So I think that's great. You talked a little bit about the workflows as an important part of the AI. How do those integrate back with the system of record? So if somebody, like the time off request, does that, how does that get linked back to whatever it is, the tooling they use to manage employee time off?
So we can essentially make a web of webhooks and APIs. So say, for example, these automated workflows are hosted in the app via an API client. So the data is then pulled into the system that hosts the workflow via attributes. And with these attributes, we can go ahead and send them on into other functionalities via APIs. So we're essentially getting the user data from the app, which is a user ID, for example, and then when the user uses it and banks data through pressing buttons or inputting information, we've got the attributes that can be saved for a period of time or forever, for example, and then pushed onto where it needs to be pushed onto.
Cool. Very good answer.
Did I see employee to employee or group messaging within the app?
You did, yes.
And you briefly touched on cross-language stuff that's going on. Are you actually allowing different languages to communicate with each other by translation?
We do, yeah. So that's our, I think it's one of the coolest things within the app. So you, in your system preferences, so in your account, you will have your kind of set language. And say, for example, you were sent a message. So I work quite a lot with German colleagues. If someone was to send me a German message, there's a handy little show translation tool underneath. I can click that and know exactly what they're saying. Even with the automated workflows, if one person wanted to build a flow in all English, they could send it. We've actually got a US customer that does this. You can send it to multiple regions, and it can be translated into Spanish if the person's got their language set as Spanish, et cetera, et cetera.
Hi, thank you. Once you're in all the employees' pockets, you can put lots of different stuff in there. So what do your customers want you to add next?
That's a great question. The list is never ending, actually. I think a lot of people are really enjoying the AI capabilities of it all. One big thing is about security, making stuff, everything is meant to go where it's meant to go, and it's saved properly, and it's not going to escape anywhere else. So we're very certain with our AI, for example, we have it set to user groups. So in terms of people who don't need to access certain information, won't get certain information. So there's a lot of that at the moment. And then we're still working on the translation as well, making sure it's fully global, and we can still keep making that the best feature as we can.
Okay, any more questions? Which is excellent. Round of applause.
Thank you.
Next up is Workflex. After coffee.
We using this one? I can do that. Feel very official here, addressing the UN or the UHR. I'm not quite sure here. We good?
Away you go.
Can I get a real microphone, just because I like walking?
Yeah, I just need it back for the questions. I've only got one mic.
Hey team, give it up for Flip. What a great presentation. Well done. I really like what Malika had to say there about the digital stone age. So if you think about how HR, global mobility, finance, and tax professionals handle when people cross a border, you can imagine they are in the digital stone age. So booking trips, checking visas, checking international guidelines and regulations, informing people, making the actual reservations, getting things like posted workers notifications, getting things like A1s for Social Security. These are all super laborious manual tasks that traditionally take hours and hours of admin time. And what's the other big thing we're talking about here at the HR Technology Summit is employee experience. We want the best for our people so they can be the most productive they can be while on the road. Conversely to some of the technology that you've seen today, we're not talking about a shiny, happy, AI-driven UI that's meant for your traveler. We're talking about optimizing things for your back office. We actually don't want our platform seen by your travelers because that means we're doing our job. So whether somebody's traveling across a border for a business trip, like myself here from Spain for a conference, or a workation, again, myself going back to Canada to visit my family in the summer, or potentially going on a longer posting for something like an assignment, maybe setting up a new office, checking on a new project, checking on a new site. There are lots and lots of things that you have to check into, be worried about, and take care of to make sure that you aren't at risk of any fees, fines, penalties, or at even worst case, jail time. The issue with this is that compliance is a hot potato. So there are so many different reporting lines internally, again, HR, travel management, finance, and all the rest of this that have access to their own specific platforms, protocols, and workflows. Let's not even talk about the employee who has to do all of these things through different platforms just so that they can get to the destination and do their actual job. And what we wanted to do was flip the methodology on its head. Our co-founder, Peter, comes from PwC, where he was traditionally getting charged 700 euros an hour to make phone calls, take emails, and check people's SharePoint files, where he could then go back and consult a mountain of information about country-to-country info. He wanted to take that idea and flip it on its head by basically downloading the brain of a mobility consultant into a global platform to give this kind of automation to the end user without having to cost an absolute fortune. So by leveraging integrations and working in behind your existing tech stack between your travel platform and your HR platform, your traveler can simply go on to Agencia, Perk, BCD, whatever you like or whatever you use, book their trip, have it ported directly into the Workflex platform, have that validated in their HR profile, and not even have to come to our profile or their profile or platform within our system and have every one of these things taken care of. The big issues in the background here is that the organization has to know so many different things about every specific trip, every specific country, every specific reason for travel. And by automating all of these processes in the background, you are able to take all of these bottlenecks internally with the hot potato that we're talking about here between HR and global mobility and all the rest of this, and make it just work for you while the travelers out there doing caffeine headache is kicking in here. So they can just get to their destination and do what it is that they're worried about. Their job, that is. So what we're... Remember you said there, Bill, where you had that little mind blank? Did so well this morning. All right, take that back a second. So if you're following the traditional protocols and the workflows of putting this on each individual and each individual function, you're typically spending around 60 minutes per individual business trip between the HR function and the traveler, making their bookings, doing all of these background checks. You've got somewhere between 300 and 400 pounds of risk that you're mitigating across all of these different compliance areas. And if you're doing something converse to the legislation in somewhere like Switzerland, for example, your posted workers notification not coming in the statutory 8 days, for example, That could cost you £20,000. You end up on a name and shame list, and that's not good for anybody. What we want to do is be able to automate that across the back and the board. Do you mind if I... Anyway, the idea here is that we're focused on A1's automation and employee experience without having to have them log into multiple platforms or have anything to worry about, so they can be a more happy, more productive, and more engaged employee while on the road, while automating your travel compliance program across the background for everybody in the organization. If you don't trust, if you don't believe me, ask any one of the 500 companies who's already using WorkFlex. We're completely modular and work with programs big and small, everything from 10-person family offices all the way up to some of these large multinationals you see here. And again, we're saving companies, we're taking companies' processes from 60 minutes per trip, 300 euros or pounds of risk liability per individual voyage, and major possibilities for bandwidth restrictions internally, and bringing that all down to zero. Thanks very much. This is WorkFlex.
Hey, nice presentation.
Thanks, Bill.
Nice presentation.
Not really, but hey.
I feel like you crushed it a little more earlier, but
Yeah.
well, you crushed it indeed before. So I
Thank you.
like the business. I like compliance across multiple jurisdictions in a niche. So it seems like a really nice spot to be, in this world. It does feel like we're a little short on AI. It seems like a lot of your back office work probably could benefit from more deployment of AI. We talked a little bit about that earlier, but do you have any, I mean, I know you've got like teams of professionals, they're making use of AI that's seeing itself into workflows, but can you talk about that a little more?
For sure. And again, one of the big things we have to be careful of here is the security and depth of information that we're transmitting, because a lot of the stuff that we're handling is going to actual jurisdictional authorities. And one of the issues that we often see with HR organizations and professionals is that the traveler wants to know, why do you need to know this? And what are you going to do with my data? So with that in mind, we're looking at all the ways that we can use optimization and machine learning or algorithmic modeling within our own environment, within the environments of our specifically secured tenants to be able to process all of the documentation this way. What we don't want to do is come out and say that we're an agentic, Gen AI company who's just training everything on wild models that haven't been proven. So we are using every ounce of automation and optimization that we can in the background, but doing it in a very controlled way to make sure that we're not breaking any rules.
Hi, thanks for that. I think what you're doing is really interesting, and the sort of complexity of the stakeholder map that you're fixing is really interesting. When you come to sell the business, which stakeholder group do you talk to, and how do you get in and get to yes with clients?
It's a bit of a mixed bag, if I'm honest. So the company's quite modular, as you saw. We're currently working across sort of 4 major things with the workations, the business travel, the assignments, the duty of care and visa thing. And it really is a proverbial hot potato. You might be speaking to somebody in this room today about a work from abroad benefit that they want to add to their stack. Very much HR, maybe HR process optimization, change and transformation. If we're talking about assignments, you're probably talking to immigration, tax, and potentially global mobility. If you're talking business travel, I'll be back here in June for the business travel show, and we're talking to the T&E manager. The issue, again, with this proverbial hot potato is that nobody wants to own it, because it's another budget line item they have to worry about, it's another supplier they have to manage, and it's another process. So what we're trying to do here is put a global platform in the background that everybody in that responsibility chain has access to have it just kind of tick along in the background. And how we get into them is how any traditional sales org would. We've got a very strong outbound engine. We're here at lots of different events in those 3 different vertical categories. Now actually branching out into the physical security and operations side of things too. And just, fighting the good fight and doing as much education as we can.
Okay, that's cool. So round of applause. That's great.
Thanks,
great
team.
job. Well done, Workplex. And last but not least, last up is Staff Circle. So Mark, Staff Circle, over to you.
Hi, everyone. So, Staff Circle. I'm going to talk to you about AI innovation. But first off, I'm going to set the context of what we do and why it's important and why AI is delivering real, tangible benefits, practical benefits to our customers. Staff Circle is a performance management and an employee development platform. We help organizations automate and transform things like one-to-ones, 360, the usual stuff. But we also help with succession planning, skills, employee development, and competency frameworks as well. And those things are interconnected into performance. Essentially, our mission is to connect people and data to help drive better performance, better employee development, better retention. And we do this by giving organizations powerful AI tools to get their workforce ready for what comes next. And the biggest problem we solve right now is data silos. Because if you think about the ecosystem, you've got HR systems with people data, systems record. You've got CRM and ERP systems that contain sales, operational information. And you've got meeting data that contains conversations, valuable, rich data. And all of those systems at the moment are not connected together. So that leads to huge amounts of blind spot decision making. But that is a problem that Staff Circle can solve. And we do this because we employ performance management, interconnected employee development, meeting intelligence, and underpinned by an AI-powered competency framework that we've developed. And this competency framework works by connecting any of the 70 HRIS integrations that we have, people in this room, syncs over all of the role data, and automatically builds out a unified competency framework containing role-based skills, competency levels, and career pathways. And once you have that systemized, you can add skills dynamically, and you can use that to do succession planning, skills gap analysis, employee development, and really understand and make data-driven decisions. Now, this is underpinned now by our latest innovation, which is MCPX. And what that is a model context protocol system that allows Staff Circle to interconnect to any other AI-enabled system that is MCP compliant. And you'll see in a second why that's really important and what capability that gives any customers of any size. We're able to do this because of where Staff Circle sits. You see, we sit in between an HRIS, an LMS, an ATS, and ERP and CRM systems, as well as meeting systems, online systems. And by connecting all of these systems together, underpinned by our MCP, we're able to provide something new and unique for organizations, which is a performance to execution bridge. What do I mean by that? If you think about performance data that you hold for the individual, how does that relate to the actions that happen inside a CRM or a ticket system or an ERP system? How does the training relate to the organization's productivity? That data is held in a third-party system. It's really difficult to connect. That comes back to the data silos that I was talking about originally. And finally, we're able to connect all of these systems together seamlessly without any kind of lengthy integration, So this technology is now available to SME and mid-market organizations, as well as enterprise. Now, this is a video of me enriching a role, a single role, using our competency framework, AI-powered competency framework. It's generating a role for an organization hyper-personalized because the system automatically understands what the organization does, what the values of the organization are, where it's located. And it uses that information to create a hyper-personalized role definition, skills that are required for the role. These are role-based executive skills and competency levels. And each of those competency levels has a hyper-personalized execution statement or competency level statement. And that information is automatically drawn into the performance management processes, the one-to-one check-ins, the reviews, the 360s. That's why development needs to be connected to performance management. However, that's just one role. What happens when you connect an HRIS system into Staff Circle? It synchronizes every single role and every single person with the organization automatically. And the built-in AI system then creates a whole row framework. You can see it here. It's connecting all the pathways. It does this every single role, every single skill. This thing will take a year's worth of work, manual work in spreadsheets, and compact it down to 1 hour of processing power where you go and make a cup of tea. And then HR will come back and spend maybe 2 or 3 days topping and tailing it, moving it around. But they won't spend a year. And because of this time limit, we're now able to give this technology to SMEs. So instead of this type of technology just evolving with enterprise and being the Workday era and the Workday customers and the SAP, this is now available to SMEs. And once you've got this competency framework in place, of course, you can do skills gap analysis, succession planning that's data-driven, single person analysis, you can do risk, you can do role-based and skills-based succession planning. And not only can you do all of that, you can then connect it to all of the other systems that you've got. Here's an example of our succession planning screen. Here's an example of our skills gap analysis showing important skills that are gapping across the organization. But there's a lot of data that's held within meetings that isn't drawn into the performance process. And so Staff Circle's third innovation, which is our own dedicated note taker, think Gong for HR, allows you to bring in contextual information from your internal meetings, skills inferences, all of the other kind of capability, and have it automatically categorize the type of meeting that it's in, and then execute follow-on actions. So all of a sudden, all of that data in that silo that's in your team's conversations is now available to enrich your employee information. Coupled with MCP, we can now utilize Claude, ChatGPT, or any other MCP-enabled system to query and create deep analytics and actions. And here is an example of me typing into Claude, asking it to create a strategic report for everybody in our sales team to deliver £500,000 worth of revenue. Look at all of the leadership. Look at the future leaders within that organization. Understand where their skills gaps are. Have a look at all of the executive actions they're taking from our CRM system, bring that data into the analytics as well. And then finally, look at some of the execution and understand which areas can be split out for agentic role-based tasks. And then build out a competency element that goes into our unified framework so that you can train agents alongside the individuals to be able to execute those tasks. And the output, after a couple of minutes, is this. This is one example of a report that has looked at all of the sales team, understand the skills, the competency levels, understand what's going on inside the CRM, and then analyzing who the future leaders are, and what their gaps are, and then building out some basic agentic skills framework as well. That's one single report, a few minutes worth of work, generating analytics from all of those data silos I talked about on the first slide. So that's Staff Circle, our AI technology and innovation. Thank you, and I'm open to questions.
Questions from the judges, Staff Circle questions.
How long has Staff Circle been going?
Oh, sorry, how old?
How long?
You
Yeah.
said hello, sorry. Yeah, 7 years old.
7 years old. Okay, cool. So you have been integrating with all of the different systems and bringing the data in over that period of time. And the innovation that we are talking about today is the MCP overlay in order to allow that to be interacted with through conversation.
Great question. So the things I've covered today are part of a 3-year strategic plan. Step 1 was to deliver our AI-powered competency framework. Step 2 was to bring in all of the data from the Teams meetings. And step 3 is to connect all of our data objects, every single object in Staff Circle, and every single action within Staff Circle via MCP. So all of that information can either be read or delivered by Agentic.
Okay, great. So you showed an experience there where a dashboard was created, and I noticed that it had the nice little Claude icon, that you were interacting with Claude whenever you were querying the system there. How much is Claude deciding what to put in that dashboard versus, and just receiving data from the MCP, versus how much is Staff Circle deciding what to surface in those reports?
Yeah. So Claude, in this instance, Claude is collecting the information that we're requesting, the branding. Claude's particularly good at graphic execution. However, it's actually executing underneath a lot of Staff Circle skills that are built as part of our MCP, so we can control the data that's brought back. And that's really important. Staff Circle was the first 10 companies in the UK to get ISO 42001, which is the safety standard, AI safety standard. And so a lot of our customers are compliance-based. A lot of our customers require strict guardrails in terms of the generation that the AI produces. So we're really careful to understand and control the level of variance that we get in the data input. But most of that data that I showed you on that screen was stored within the Staff Circle platform. Some of it was synced over from an interconnected HRIS.
How confident are you that you would receive the same dashboard back from 2 very similar prompts?
It's a great question. We control the quality. In order to get consistent, as you know, in order to get consistent output from AI systems or improve or control the consistency, you need very deep prompting and a very good level of contextual data and control of that, the way that contextual data is presented. And we do that through quite a large amount of skills, the interconnected skills that we have in our platform, and the way that we pass the data through on the systems. So the answer is, I'm fairly confident of the graphical representation. I'm very confident about the data representation.
Okay, super. Thank you.
Nice presentation. So the structured succession planning seems like an interesting way to build markdown files for skills and agents. So that seems like there could be something interesting there. But I mean, again, back to the dashboard. So we had Claude was talking to Staff Circle data, structured data set. It wasn't speaking directly. It wasn't pulling the data from the HRIS that built your demo.
Most HRISs at the moment don't have MCP, as you know. What we do have is data sync from the standard objects in the HRIS platforms, and we have, I think, about 50 or 60 data connectors to HRIS platforms, and another 20 or 30 for ATS platforms, and a load for LMS as well. So we sync course data in as well. So, but we're the ones that provide the MCP and that front end, agentic front end to any of the systems that interconnect with us at the moment.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, I think that's it. Round of applause for Staff Circle. I'm going to keep speaking for a little bit if we could just do the quick add up. And then we'll be able to announce the winners. And then you'll all be able to go home or to the pub or whatever it is you wish to do. But thank you for being with us, those of you who've been with us for the last 2 days. Can I have a round of applause for the judges who've been all the way through, and Head Judge Cinzia, who's been whipping everybody into shape, including me. Interesting 2 days on innovation and on actually seeing the reality of where we're going with AI. I think there is a point now that we can get to where we can actually reach. The judges are just going for a smoke. I think we're getting to a point where we can think agentically, and I think that's the biggest challenge that we have in the roles that we have today, is to be able to visualize what workflow can we realistically have performed. What was really interesting to me in some of the presentations we were looking at, we saw that in the last one with Staff Circle. We've seen it with some of the, more so with some of the startups yesterday, where we're beginning to think, and it's two of the big takeaways I take from this show, from having looked at all the different presentations, is being able to think in terms of agents and people as a tandem operation, rather than an either or a separation of skills. And I think that's the workflow challenge that we have, is to be able to move into skills-based allocation, skills-based definition of task, skills-based hiring, to be able to do that, and to be able to do that thinking alongside agentic skills and agentic agents. So I think when we look at the technology that's out here, that's out there on the floor, that is able to look at that hybrid, where does the human live, where are the guardrails, where are the rules, where are we able to control the compliance, and where are we able to bring agentic skills into workflow and actually complement rather than compete with each other. And I think we're thinking in a very competitive way in terms of always having the conversation about how is AI going to, what jobs are AI going to take away, right? And there is a discussion, there's no doubt there's a discussion to be had there to figure out the right way we do that. But more so, we should be thinking about how do we change agentic and what is our output. Is our output, and this is one of the areas I'm concentrating a lot on in the reports that I'm looking at for the AIM group, the major measure we seem to be using to determine whether AI is successful in an organization or not is changes in earnings per employee. So in the investor calls that I go that I'm on, in calls that I go to, that is the main metric which seems to be consistently featured and figured out. If we use agentic to raise the output of a function, if we use agents to do that work, to do the heavy lifting, does that increase the earning per employee? That seems to be the North Star that we're looking at, is can we generate more revenue in total by all the activity that we do per person compared to how we used to do it? And that will be the benefit of AI. And really we have a number of ways of looking at that or framing that. And I think in HR we have a strong responsibility for this. In one way we can look at AI and say, we now require less people to do a particular task in an organisation, or we can rethink and say not that we need less people, but that we can achieve more output. We can increase our potential to generate revenue. And I think when we start thinking about how can we generate revenue, we frame the solution in a different way, because the solution isn't then about what people should we clear, it's what should we do with the people. I think of it really, it's really interesting. I'm looking around the room and some of you won't have any idea what I'm talking about, but when I was growing up as a kid, there used to be a TV show called The $6 Million Man. It was like the Steve Austin, someone who had kind of robot parts. And that's now how I think of this agentic hybrid workload of like, these are my human bits, these are my human bits which are necessary to make the machine work and behave compliantly, and these are my enhancement tools that enable me to have greater capacity, greater volume. And thinking in that hybrid way is something we really have to do. The very last point I want to leave you with came from the Visio presentation, and that is when we talk about innovation, we're sometimes disappointed. I talk to lots of thought leaders who live in bubbles who say, oh, well, I didn't really see anything really interesting or really exciting. And then I talk to people from a practitioner world, and they say, yeah, but we're moving them from Excel and PowerPoint into some data visualization. It may not feel like a giant leap, but it is a giant leap for the users. And I think that's something I'll take away from this show, is thinking in terms of the pace of innovation may be slower than I would like it to be, but is at the pace of the user and what they're comfortable with, because they're the ones who have to use it every day. I'm just the one who has to talk about it every day. So, judges, I think we have a decision. I've got an envelope and everything. Oh, there's nothing written on it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I have an envelope. So the winner in first place of this year's innovation and AI competition is Flip. Round of applause for Flip. Are they still here? Yeah, they are. Come on up and get your... And let's get all the judges up on the stage for the picture, please. I like to surround myself with these people. It makes me look more gorgeous. Come on up. Good job. So we're ready? Congratulations, Flip. Great job.
Thank you very much.
All done? Well done. There's your certificate. There is other stuff. The organisers will send you the actual stuff, but that's your certificate for now. Well done. Great job. Thanks, judges. Thank you all. We're done. Thank you. Goodbye.